It's a process, okay? Hello, and welcome to The Thread. This is a podcast about my journey to becoming a bona fide knitwear designer, all of the things that I'm knitting on the side, and whatever other nerdy tangent I may or may not feel like skipping down this week. My name is Nicole. That is The Thread going off on Discord. And I am the nerdy designer behind Common Thread Fiber. It is my goal in life, y'all, to enable, particularly, but not exclusively, nerdy knitters to bring the conviction and passion that they find in their favorite stories, their favorite heroes, bring those values into their everyday lives. And I do that by designing patterns that are fantasy-inspired, mythology-inspired, art-inspired. So it allows us to bring our favorite heroes, our favorite stories, our favorite works of art into our everyday lives. And that's really just my goal in life. So you hear a lot about that on this podcast. For any new viewers, welcome. For any returning viewers, what up? But this week's episode is going to be a little different. Not going to lie to you. So I know we're a good chunk into 2023. And by a good chunk, I mean a couple of weeks. So this episode may be kind of weirdly timed because it is not at the very top of January 2023. It's kind of at the latter half of 2023. But quite a few of my favorite podcasters have done WIP Audit episodes. And I've watched them and thought to myself, I mean, I don't need to do that, right? Like, I don't have that many whips. Bucket of whips, guys. I have a bucket of whips. I have plenty of whips. I'm drowning in whips, to be totally honest with you. So this week's episode, we're going to go through the bucket. We're going to go through the bucket and we're going to decide, what am I keeping? What am I not keeping? And what am I on the fence about? So I thought about kind of putting them into categories. The only category that I have is, this is a travesty. And that's the one where this whip has been on the needles for years, and I'm probably going to frog it. So that's really the only one I can come up with. Maybe, yeah, we're just going to stick with that. It's a travesty. That's the only category that really matters. And the other thing that I'm not going to do this episode is make like a timeline. By the end of 2023, I will finish these whips. No, I won't. That would be a bald-faced lie. I know myself. That's not going to happen. So I really just want to go through and see what there is to see, because I'm not going to lie to you. I have not been through this bucket of whips in a while. And we're going to do it live for me. It's not live for you, but we're going to do it together. And if that sounds good to you, then all right, chums, let's do this. So first, I'm actually going to start with some finished objects, because I just told you this was about whips. So let's start with finished objects, right? The first one, I did not make these. A dear friend from The Thread made these. Julian from Denmark made these amazing socks for me. These are the Long Dark of Moria socks. And this wonderful human made these socks for me because I hate knitting socks. So I hate knitting socks, guys. I want to knit socks. And there's no shade towards sock knitting. There's no shade towards sock patterns. I love looking at sock patterns. I think they're so beautiful. And I love watching people just go at their, little circular needles. It just looks so comforting. And then I go and do it and I am in a world of pain. So I don't really tend to knit socks. These are glorious. I'm not sure what the yarn is, to be honest, but the pattern is a Long Dark of Moria. So, of course, my friend knit me socks that come from the land of my people, the dwarves Thorin's folk. I love them so much. So I've been wearing the crap out of these guys. Like, you have no idea. So I'm also really grateful that she sent me the leftover yarn in case I ever need to darn them. I will absolutely need to fix these because I can't stop wearing them. Because it has been weirdly cold in Florida. So it's been glorious to be able to put on some hand knit socks. So thank you so much. You have no idea. Well, you do, because I've gushed about them, and I kind of won't shut up about them on the thread, to be honest. But it means the friggin' world to me, seriously. So yeah, those are the Long Dark of Moria socks knit by my dear, dear friend and member of the thread. And they make me so happy. My other FO, this one is one of mine. It's my final sample for my King Under the Mountain hat. Please ignore the tail. It actually has been woven in. It has been. I just haven't cut it yet. I always feel so, I don't know, man. Like, it makes me nervous to finally cut the tail. I don't know why. I don't know why. But anyway, this is my final sample. You have the pom-pom. Yeah. So this is my hat for Thorin. I am going to name it Hat for Thorin. I can't remember if we discussed this on, the big podcast or if it was my in-betweener videos. In-betweener videos I do for members of my Ko-fi, supporters of my Ko-fi, the weeks in between my podcasts that are 45 minutes to an hour long. I do about a 15 to 20 minute video for my Ko-fi supporters. I know we talked about it there. I don't know if we talked about it here. So I have named this pattern Hat for Thorin because it cracks me up. And it really will be like our Speak Friend and Enter. If you get the title as the joke that it is, you're one of the cool kids, I guess. Or one of the uber nerdy kids. You can decide. I say that the uber nerdy kids are the cool ones, but, coming from a very specific vantage point, I suppose. This is my hat for Thorin. I can't say it without feeling like... Anyway, here it is. So I will also pop in some video of the one that I did for my mom. And you're going to see some differences. So on the one that I made for my mom, my prototype, if you will, you'll notice that it's kind of a 4x4 ribbing on the brim. That then goes into the cables. With mine, I decided to do it just like it is on the shawl. Oh my god, there are two tails. Guys, I have a problem. I really do. I need to cut the cord, so to speak. Anyway, I decided to do it exactly like it's done on my shawl. So it's the 4 stitches that are the immediate cables and then 2 stitches in between them. The reason I didn't originally, I was worried that it would be too stiff. It's not too stiff at all. It totally works. So as you also see in the video that I probably already popped in of my mom's, hers has some slouch. So when I made mine, because yes, this is my sample, I am keeping it. Look at this color. How could I not? When I made my sample, I took out the extra twists. So just like the King Under the Mountain shawl, you go in from the rupee cables, which are these, into single twists. And I did the single twists on the hat because then it gives plenty of room to do the crown shaping. But in order to give it a little extra slouch, I suggest that every size except the first size does at least 1 extra twist before going into the crown shaping. That gives you probably about 1.5 inches worth of, extra slouch. I'm not going for an octopus hat fit here, but I did want it to have a little bit of slouch. I didn't want it to be negative ease. So the nice thing about that is it's pretty modifiable. So for most sizes, you could take out the extra twists. I'm going to have a tester knit the first size and see how that works out. I don't love the idea that there's one size that can't really modify that slouch. So I'm going to try to work that out in testing. So this is size 3, I believe. I do think I knit myself one size too big, but I'm okay with it. I knit my mother size 2. So, and hers has those extra twists. So, the nice thing is those twists are about 1 inch. So if you want more slouch, it's very easy to add it in. Anyway, we'll turn around, see, hopefully you guys can see it. So again, there is some room. There's definitely not negative ease, but it's not slouchy. I love it. Can we talk about this colorway, please? 3 guesses who it's from. You should already know. You already know. It's Baby Cat. Baby Cat yarns. Oops, Britt did it again. I love this color, but unfortunately, leave it to me to fall in love with the misfit color of her entire shop. This dye is splitting, apparently. I'm not a dyer, so I hope that I explained this right. Britt, if you're watching, please, in the comments, correct me. But the dye is splitting, which just means that the dye itself is not all that, I don't want to say reliable. It's not predictable. So when it splits, the red dye kind of splits away, and so you can get some red flecks in your yarn. I don't give a shit. It really didn't. I mean, there's maybe 1 or 2 places. I think it just gives the yarn character. I think it's how I know it's hand-dyed. Because Britt's colors are so consistent that sometimes it's like, damn, like, are these actually hand-dyed? Of course I believe they're hand-dyed, but they're so consistent. And it's incredible. So this is Genovian Pear. And what Britt has done is, because she's super committed to this colorway, because it's epic, she actually dropped the price of it in her shop, since she can't guarantee that there won't be those red flecks. So instead of $28, I think it's $24 a skein now. So excuse me while I just go buy all of it. to make everything I own in this color because I love it. So again, this is Genovian Pear by Baby Cat Yarns. I will be editing this pattern today and tomorrow. So today is Thursday. You'll be seeing this on Friday. But I'll be getting this pattern edited into my tech editor. I'm hoping by the time, the next podcast shows up, I will have a call for testers out. And just as a reminder, my Ko-fi supporters do get first stab at my call for testers. Then I send out an email to my call for testers email list. The link is in the down bar. You will never get an email from me. If you sign up for that list, you will never get an email from me except for when I'm putting out a call for testers. I don't have a newsletter yet, but even if I decide to make one, because I think I have enough to say to make it worth it for you to open it, you're not going to be automatically subscribed just because you're on that list. I think that's gross. That will never happen. So if you want second stab, you can sign up there. And then if there are still slots open, that's when I will open it to Instagram at large. That's how I'm going to start doing it, because I did not think about doing it in that way with my King Under the Mountain shawl, and I had to turn people away, and that did not feel good at all. So anyway, that is my hat for Thorin. And now let's get into some WIPs, shall we? We're going to start with the one that's right in front of me because it's convenient. So I want to put a couple caveats in front before I get into this WIP. The first thing is I'm not going to put pictures as slides. I will put the name here, somewhere on the screen, and then I'll put a link to the pattern in the down bar. So if you want to go look at it, you can. It's just, this is going to be a lot of patterns, so I'm not going to do slides for every single one. But all the information will be in the down bar. And then there are going to be 2 patterns that are conspicuously missing. And the reason that I'm not going to share them anymore, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know I kind of had a reckoning with myself. As a designer, I am incredibly committed to size inclusivity. I'm actually taking a grading boot camp right now to ensure that I learn good habits now, not when I have 10 patterns out. So I'm very committed to ensuring that I can give you a good fit no matter where on the size scale you are, and that your size will be included, essentially. So as a designer, those values are core values for me. I'm literally putting my money where my mouth is. But I realize as a maker, I may not be being as cognizant as I could be. So I have a 44-inch bust. I'm clearly not a thin woman, which I do identify as female. So I'm not thin. I've never been thin. I've always been at least thick with 2 C's, and I'm okay with that. Like, not trying to say that as, in a shady way. But I've never really benefited from thin privilege. And so because of that, I realized I've never really been paying much attention. If my size is there, I'm assuming it's size inclusive. Well, as the community has been demanding more size inclusivity, my size has started to show up more. So now it's like this weird middle of the road privilege. So I went and looked at all of the patterns in my WIP bucket that I knew of, at least. Like, so the one I'm about to talk about, deeper down, I don't know. But I went and looked, and 2 of them did not go up to a 60-inch bust, which for me, size inclusivity is a minimum of a 60-inch bust. I would like to see higher than that, but 60-inch actual bust, not finished measurement. So if it's a 62-inch bust, but you have 14 inches of ease, that's not size inclusive. So I will not be talking about those patterns. I am debating whether or not I want to highlight patterns that are size inclusive, but are from designers who are not size inclusive across the board. In my mind, here's my theory, and I absolutely reserve the right to change my mind, because I'm grappling with this, right? I'm grappling with it, I'm thinking it out, and I'm respecting y'all enough to share that process with you. I'm thinking, if you want to vote with your dollars, then buy the patterns from designers who are shifting, their size. Buy the patterns from designers who've always been size inclusive, obviously. But even when designers start to shift to more size inclusive designs, or even if they're not shifting, it just so happens that that design is size inclusive, to me, vote with your dollars, buy those patterns. Do not buy the patterns that they publish that are not size inclusive. And I mean, I'm the kind of person who will also send the designer a message being like, I love this design. I bought it because I also love that it's size inclusive. I would love to support you further. Do you have any plans on extending your size range for these other sizes? So my thought process is, if there is a design that's not from the obvious offenders, who I'm not going to name here, but we all know who they are, and it happens to be, like, it is size inclusive, but not all of their patterns are, I might still share it if I'm knitting it. But I also I reserve the right to change my mind. Because to me, voting with your dollars would mean showing the designers, I like it when it's size inclusive, I don't like it when it's not. But there's more than one way to go about it, right? So that's my hot take on it. Again, reserve the right to change my mind. But there are 2 patterns that will not be here. So we're not going to talk about them. I'm not going to promote them. I will finish them because they will fit me, but I'm not going to promote them. So let's start with one that is. It does go, I think it goes up to a 66-inch bust. And that is the Flax pullover. So for me, it's actually a cardigan. Because I'm really effing extra. And I decided to steek it. So this is almost done. And by almost done, I mean it's like 65% done. I think I have about 3 inches left before I do the ribbing. And then I will pick up for the button band and pick up for the collar. I think I'm going to knit the collar first. And then I'll knit the button band so it kind of gets that crisp line. And the reason I'm thinking that, this is one of those things where you learn as you go, right? You learn as you modify, you learn as you design. It didn't occur to me that there's no real neck shaping on this. So they put short rows under the yoke somewhere in here in the back to raise the back neck, but that's not neck shaping. So, I was thinking about picking up and doing it all at once, but I'm concerned that will make it go into a wonky shape, and I also don't love shawl collars, so I also don't want it to look like a shawl collar. So I'm going to do the collar first, thanks to Anna, who is, again, a member of the thread. She's kind of helped walk me through this a little bit. She said I knit the collar first and then do the button band. It kind of creates a crisp kind of corner and line. I think that's the right way to approach it. So that's what we're going to do. And then, obviously sleeve island. I'm going to do these like balloon sleeves. I'm not going to decrease until the very end, and I will rapidly decrease because that's just the vibe I'm going for. And I'm thinking about posting a photo and maybe a poll both on YouTube and Instagram of some of the buttons I'm looking at because I could really use some help. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, here it is. This is absolutely getting done. I know, and I'm flying on it. So if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that I got some pretty crappy news. I'm not going to go into it here. But I did get some pretty crappy news over the last week. And so I really, the urge to just knit away on this came back. It's amazing how, what is comforting at what point. So for me, I find that when I'm really anxious, having a very in-depth technical pattern is really helpful. It keeps my mind from whirling, keeps my mind from doing that. But when I'm feeling, maybe a little sad, this stockinette is perfect. Sad or tired. And don't worry, y'all, I'm okay. But the urge to just knit away on stockinette and play Civ 6 with Dan has absolutely returned. So this is going to get done. I'm assuming by the next podcast, I'll probably have at least the collar knit and maybe the button band picked up, but we'll see. Again, this was my Blue Wizards cardie. That's what I'm calling it. It's what I named it, essentially. It's what I named my project. And it was supposed to be my fall fandom make-along make, but the urge to knit stockinette disappeared. It has now returned. And the fall fandom make-along is long over. Prize winners have been notified, prizes have gone out, all that jazz. So this one is definitely going to get done. Let's do... Well, this one's right here. What is that? This is not a knit hula hoop, I promise. It's that 70s Hobbit shawl. And if you're wondering, Nicole, what is the gray? So I did cast this on, and I was going for a while, right? I actually started the color work, which, here we go. For any new viewers, I'm designing a shawl based on the vest that Bilbo Baggins wears in the first Hobbit movie, and this is what it will look like. This is like a doll version of it, except not anymore. So ignore the garter stitch. That is going away. And you may be asking, Nicole, why are you getting rid of the garter stitch? Because when I did it on a size 8 needle, it was like fishnet. So, not going to do that. Because I'm extra, and everything has to be a little harder than it needs to be. Which, you know what, I'm going to take that back. Provisional cast-ons are not, to me, personally, my brand of crazy, your mileage may vary, they're not hard. So, and it's because I do it with a crochet hook. So to me, it's actually easier to do it that way than it is to do a long tail cast on. There's no guessing whether or not I left a long enough tail. The web of profanity that I've woven above my house at times where I get to 400 stitches, I need 20 more, and then I realize, oh my god, there's not enough yarn. It's a thick web that hangs over my home to this very day. And yes, that is a Christmas Story reference. So doing the crochet cast on, so a crochet cast on is a thing on its own, and then doing the provisional cast on with a crochet hook, to me it's no more finicky or no more difficult. But again, it might just be my personal brand of crazy. So that's what the gray is. I cast it on provisionally because I'm going to do an I-cord bind off. So I did find an edging I really love. It's a braided edging that would use both colors, but I'm not promising that will make it onto this shawl because I'm not sure that it can go down the sides. I know it can go through the top, but again, I'm not sure about the sides. So it might be one of those things that because I'm essentially picking up a steek that it might act like a cast on or bind off edge, or it's live stitches. I have to play with it. We have to see. But worst case scenario, it's going to be an I-cord edge around the whole thing. So, and we'll do a steek sandwich for the steek. That's my plan. And as you can see, I'm absolutely nowhere close to executing that plan. I am working on this, but I got a lot of irons in the fire at the moment, including a project that I am not at liberty to speak about yet. I'm not sure when I will be. I have a rough idea, but I don't want to promise anything. But things are, to quote The Little Mermaid, I don't know when, I don't know how, but I know something's starting right now. It is, y'all. It's coming. It is going to be really great. But lots of irons in the fire. That's the point right now. And so some of the work that's getting done is getting done a little slowly, but it's okay. And yeah, so that will be my That 70s Hobbit shawl. This is what it will look like. If you're thinking this kind of looks like a placemat, I don't disagree with you. This is what it actually looks like on size 8 needles. So the motif got bigger, but guys, this is going to be an 80-inch shawl. Bigger motif won't be the worst thing that happens. And if this will eventually become a cardigan, but we might be talking a couple years down the road. And when it is a cardigan, it will be in fingering weight. Please don't hate me. Because that's also 422 stitches casted on with a crochet hook. Y'all, I did a poll on Instagram. You guys said you weren't afraid of that many stitches. So, and for anyone who is a viewer but not on Instagram, go blame Instagram. Usually you can blame Instagram for most of our problems, so just stick with that. Anyway, let's do another one. Okay, you're going to look at this and be like, Nicole, that's a finished object. I'm confused. Yeah, okay. So this is the Cedar Pullover by Locatelli. It is in a color that you don't see on me very much. It's not that I won't knit with like a blush or a mauve. It's just not generally my thing. When I do go for neutrals, I tend to go for more slate. This is actually from my mother. I knit this for her for Christmas like 2 years ago. And God bless her, she's the most knit-worthy person I have ever met. She sends me a picture with this on, and she's like, ta-da! And it's like up to her belly button, y'all. And, if you want a cropped look, that's totally fine. My mom does not want a cropped look. So she was going to wear this around in public, even though she doesn't want a cropped look. I told her, unacceptable. Send it back to me. I will fix it. 2 years later, it's still not fixed. So I need to fix this. And how I'm going to fix it, I'm going to unpick the bind off, and I'm going to do another round of lace. My mom was here for Christmas. We talked about it, and she really likes that idea. So that is how we are going to fix the Cedar Pullover. This will absolutely get done. This is one that I will promise will get done by the end of 2023. Probably would like to, aim for getting this done by spring 2023. My mom, this is 100% cotton. So it's definitely a different yarn than Hohi uses. I think Hohi uses a linen, possibly held double. So hers looks a little airier. My mom likes to go to outdoor concerts during the spring and the summer. And she kind of wanted something she could wear that would keep her warm during those early summer evenings, but is not oppressively hot. And so cotton sounded like the way to go. This is Cascade Pima cotton. The other two things that I showed you are both knit picks, Wool of the Andes. One is Wool of the Andes worsted in Jurassic, so that's my cardigan. The other is Wool of the Andes, just straight up Wool of the Andes, non-superwash. I think that's their turmeric colorway. And I don't promise, the deeper we get into this bucket, guys, I don't promise that I'm going to remember what the yarn is, what the colorway is. I make no promises. I will do my best. But yeah, some of these are old. But anyway, Cedar pullover, definitely going to get done. Okay, this one, if there was another category other than this is a travesty, this one would be called It's a Process, okay? So, this is one of those comfort knits. I feel like quite a few of us have them, where you only knit on it when you're in the car, or when you have company, or when you need a comfort knit. And it's a blanket. I feel like blankets, for me, personally, blankets are not meant to be done very quickly. But this whole thing did get knocked out in like one go because I was having a really rough time at the beginning of 2022. So this is my corner to corner blanket by Purl Soho. I am knitting this up. I do remember the yarn in this. I don't remember the colorways. But this yarn is Lion Brand 24/7 cotton. And I really wanted colors that looked like a 1960s, 1970s surfing billboard. So I think I achieved that. And I love it. I love how graphic it is. I really, really love it. It is a chainette cotton, so it has the weight of cotton, which in a blanket I think feels really nice. But it's not oppressively heavy. And yeah, what else do I want to say about it? The pattern is very straightforward, but I did make a modification. I'm doing an eyelet border. I don't know how well. Yeah, I'm doing an eyelet border instead of the border they suggest. They suggest just doing, make ones and slip knits, I think. I know for the increases it's make ones, and we've talked about this. My make ones are sloppy as the day is long. So I just figured, screw it, I'll just make a really big washcloth and a queen size washcloth, if you will, and add the eyelets around the edges. So that's the modification I made for that. This will get done, probably not this decade. I don't know when it will get done, but it will get done. I'm not going to frog this. And it's just, I like having that really long-term project. It's a comfort knowing that it's there. Okay, we have our first It's a Travesty. This is a travesty. Okay. It's a sock. So remember that one time in this episode that I told you I hate sock knitting? Yeah, I really do. So I had a ton of fun knitting the color work, and then I wanted to die. So, and the worst part is all I have left is the toe. It's just the toe. But what keeps happening is I keep dropping stitches. See, the stitches are off. They're gone. I feel like the William Tell Overture needs to be playing right now because there they go. Yeah. Y'all, this is getting frogged. And Dan's gonna cry really hard about it. Because this is supposed to be for him. And I love everything about this sock except that I have to knit it. So what had happened was the toe, I messed up the numbers on the toe. That's what happened. And so I had to go back and do some math. And by I had to do some math, I mean Dan had to do some math because if I'm knitting him socks, he could do the math for them. And refixed it. But then something happened with the needles. And by something, I mean I was probably stupid and took the needles off and didn't put stoppers on. There's no accounting for stupid, guys. I don't know what to tell you. And so here we all are. And it is an absolute travesty because the pattern is really cute. It's very pretty. And the yarn, guys, I can wax poetic about this yarn for days. This is Tsuki Mountain yarn she had a sock club, a Ghibli sock club. And this is Ponyo. So, it's supposed to be Ponyo's red dress and the ocean. And here's the thing. I don't tend to go in for super bright colors. I mean, this is probably about as bright as I go, right? Which, I mean, that's pretty bright, to be honest. But Brittany of Tsuki Mountain has this ability to dye electric colors that I want. And this is one of them. I can't get over it. And I will never stop believing that this pattern, which is Ride the Waves by Bloom and Create, it's a lovely pattern. I will never stop believing that this is the perfect pairing. This is Ponyo. Like, come on. The ocean, come on. And again, my hatred of sock knitting has nothing to do with any pattern I've ever knit. The pattern from Bloom and Create is clear. It's very thoughtfully put together. I would say it's a very sweet pattern. And so it's not the pattern's fault. And like I said, I had a lot of fun knitting, the cuff. I had a lot of fun with that. It's just then the rest of it I hate. And as another example, this is not a WIP, but as another example, the electric colors that Brittany dyes. So Brittany also dyes really beautiful tonals, like some of these greens back here are hers. But this is another one. Like, look at this color. It's electric. Boogie, boogie, boogie. I mean, oh, God. And I don't usually go in for blue either. Like, teals, yeah. The colorway, like the Jurassic, yeah, for sure. But I'm a little more picky when it comes to blues than I am with green. Or, yellows. And I can get picky with oranges and maroons. But, man, Brittany just has this way of dyeing colorways like this and like this that I'm like, I want them all. I want it all, and I want it now. I didn't know that this podcast was going to be a musical one. I apologize. Common thread, the musical edition. So yeah, this is probably going to get frogged, and I'll figure out something else to do with it, because this yarn needs to be used. It needs to be seen. It's beautiful. I can't get over it. Don't tell Dan. Okay, here's another. It's a travesty. This is a travesty. I think this was the second shawl I ever casted on. This is the Stormy Sky shawl by, I believe, Life is Cozy. I don't know the designer's actual name. I just know on the pattern it just had Life is Cozy. I don't remember what yarn this is, guys. This is years. I've been knitting this for years. This was my beach knit for a while, and I think it's going to get frogged. Not because I wouldn't wear the colors. I think I would. But because I have no idea where I am in the pattern. And it's been sitting on a cord for years now. It's just time to admit it. This is hopping in the frog pond. I won the yarn in a raffle from my local yarn store that is now closed, which was also a travesty. But yeah, it's a really cool pattern. It's just at this time in my life, I was not a shawl knitter. And I might still say that I'm not a shawl knitter. I'm a shawl designer. I really like designing my shawls. And again, the Stay Cozy shawl, I loved knitting. But I think there's at least one other shawl in this bucket that's not mine that I don't know what to tell you. You know what? Let's do that one. So this one is, I don't know, y'all. Like that, okay, that would be another category. I don't know, y'all. This is the Pressed Flowers shawl. It's beautiful. This is Fiber Seed Yarns. I don't remember the colorways because, again, I cast this on election night 2020. It's fantastic. I love the color combination. Again, when I do blues, I love them with yellows and mustards and, warm tones. This one will probably be like my blanket where I will finish it, but it might take me a couple years. And I think it's just because this one takes a lot of brain power. And I'm sure that if I knit it consistently, it wouldn't take as much brain power as it does. But this is where we're at. Like, just going to work with my brain, not against it. So this is, like I said, the Pressed Flower Shawl by Amy Christoffers. And yeah, it takes a lot of brain power. I have to go back and forth a lot from her written instructions to her chart. Which, again, I think if I was knitting it consistently, I would memorize the written instructions. But you have, I think at least 25 rows where there's a different instruction happening on the outside. I do think they repeat, but then I'm thinking to myself, then why are there 25? I don't understand. Whatever. It's just the way the pattern is written might not jive with me. It's not that it's poorly written, it just might not jive with my brain very well. But it's beautiful and I really love it. So I want the finished object, I just don't want to work on it most of the time. So yeah, that one will probably be it's a process, y'all. So we got It's a Travesty, It's a Process, y'all, and then the ones where I don't know what to tell you, they'll get done when they get done. Okay. Here's another one. So this is one of my designs. This is where the I don't know when, I don't know how, but I know something is starting right now comes in. So this was the tee formerly known as the Golden Hall tee. It has gone through some design edits. So this is my design. It's gone through some edits. What you see here will absolutely be part of the finished product. But there's lots of finishing things that you don't know, and I'm not going to share just yet. And yeah, so this is a version in 100% cotton. This is a version that is not a compound raglan. This was my first prototype. And let's talk about that. So we're talking about WIPs, right? Works in progress. So I'm doing a pattern grading boot camp from Julie, I believe Julie Robinson, Julie at Work. And it's fantastic. So I'm doing the warm up right now, which is free for everybody, but I'm planning on also doing the hardcore boot camp, which is not free. So, you know, I'm really enjoying her perspective, especially when she talks about pattern development instead of pattern design. Because then it kind of works into your brainstem that this is a process and you should be prepared to have different iterations of things. And hell yeah, that's right. I know we want to be able to do things right quickly the first time. I mean, I was raised by New Yorkers. That was like their motto. Do it right, do it fast, do it the first time. But that's not art. This is art. That's not how this works. So yeah, it takes some of that pressure off when you have to rip back or you have to, you know, try something differently or redesign a little bit. And it really helps my brain do that. So this is one of those where this was a prototype. And like my hat for Thorin had a prototype and then it had a second shot and now we have the finished object. And it's all according to plan, essentially. So yeah, this is my Golden Hall tee, 100% cotton. The finished design will not be 100% cotton. And it will be a compound raglan and graded correctly. And, you know, if it has to go through edits, it has to go through edits. But this is Paintbox DK weight cotton in their racing green. I absolutely love this yarn. I mean, look, it's not buttered kittens, I'm not going to lie to you. But for like $4 a skein, it's excellent. And it holds up really well to being ripped out. Trust me, I ripped this out a lot. It's a really good workhorse yarn. And you're going to see that from me. You're going to see my patterns knit up in knit picks. You're going to see them knit up in, you know, Baby Cat. You're going to see them knit up in Green Mountain Spinnery because I really want to show that, not all at the same time necessarily, but I really want to be able to show that my patterns look just as good in the indie dyed or luxury yarn as they do in the knit picks, you know, really strong workhorse yarn. That's important to me. Anyway, here we go. This is another, it'll get done. It doesn't look like much of anything. It's a mustache of a WIP. This is the Critical Knit by Brittany Westmorland, who is Tsuki Mountain Yarn. Or Tsuki Mountain Fiber, I believe. It looks like nothing. It looks like nothing right now. I do have, though, this was my swatch. So this is genius. Brittany made the swatch a dice bag. So it is Critical Knit based on D&D. And I love it. So it's got D20. It's got all the dice on the yoke. It's got dice on the, you know, the hem. And she's got a bunch of different colorwork charts that allow you to kind of modify the colorwork around the cuffs, possibly on the hem too. And for what type of, you know, player you are. So it's really cute and I really love it. And so here's the swatch. This is not a yarn you would typically use in colorwork. This is, I think this side might look a little neater. This is Rowan Softjack DK. And I'm using that because it's mostly cotton. I live in Florida. So not all of my colorwork is going to be out of 100% wool. When it's a design, it will be, because then it's typical and it's predictable. But when I'm doing something for myself for fun, I'm going to use chainettes. I'm going to use fuzzy cottons. I'm going to play. And that's what this sweater is. I'm really excited about it. It's definitely going to get done. It might not get done immediately, but it will get done. So yeah, again, I don't remember the colorway, but this is Softjack DK, which is buttered kittens, as Kristen of Wool and Vine would say. Okay, here we go. Another travesty. It's a travesty. It's supposed to be a headband, and I believe that the pattern is from issue 1 of Nomadic Knits, the Florida issue. It's lace, guys. Like, I am not, as of yet, a lace knitter. I would like to become a lace knitter. But you see this? It's a lifeline. I hate using lifelines. I hate it with a fiery burning passion. Like, to quote Mrs. White from Clue, flames on the side of my face. Like, that's how I feel about lifelines. They drive me nuts. And they shouldn't. It's not that deep. It's probably because I don't practice. Like, I think that that's why I'm not a lace knitter. I'm not a sock knitter because sock knitting physically hurts me. You know, I have this injury. I know you've all seen it. And, you know, the way you kind of have to hold your pinky with the smaller needles, and when you're doing DPNs, this can balloon. And magic loop in me, I only do it under dire circumstances, so that's why I don't sock knit. But lace knitting, I just need to practice. So if I don't really go in for blues too often, if I'm more picky about my blues, I never knit purples. Never. You'll see me maybe knit a Merlot. That's because it is a deep, dark red wine color. I don't do purple. What was I thinking? I could tell you what I was thinking. I looked at this and went, ew, look, it's a mermaid. That's what I did. I'm never going to knit this. I'm never going to wear it. Like, purple and me don't go together. We just don't make any sense. So I was going to hop in the frog pond. I don't know what to do with this yarn. I feel some type of way being like, who wants used yarn? I don't know why, but I just do. I don't remember who dyed it. I don't remember the colorway. This one's, again, years old. But yeah, it's a travesty. Into the frog pond it will go. Okay, I think we have 2 more in here. 2 more? I think 2 more. One is essentially a swatch. So this is still a cast on. This isn't even a cast on. This is a swatch. So this is Dan's sweater that I am designing for him that I may or may not make into a published pattern. So I'm calling it the King of the Golden Haul. It is my Golden Haul cable. I say I did not design that cable. This is a very traditional Celtic cable. You will see it all over the place. Anyone claiming they designed it is lying. We'll put it that way. It's in most stitch dictionaries. It's very traditional. It's very old school. It's a great cable. This is on my Golden Haul shawl, and my husband really loves this cable, so I thought, all right, I'll make him a cardigan out of it. I'm debating whether or not I want the cardigan to either be a raglan or a modified drop shoulder. I'm still playing with it, so this isn't even a cast on. I have to get him to stand still long enough for me to measure him. But this is also Soft Jack DK. I want to say the colorway is navy, but that feels way too obvious. So this is going to get done. I mean, it's going to get started, and then it'll get done. But it's in my bucket of whips, so I thought we would talk about it. And yeah, this is when I think I'll probably share the process in depth on my in-betweener videos when I really get going on it. I'll share, big milestones here, but I think, the drafting process, the grading process, all the things that I'll go through, I'll share in my in-betweener video. With this one in particular. Not all my designs, but this one, since I don't know if this will be a published design. It might just be a gift for Dan. We'll see. But yeah, Soft Jack DK, it'll eventually get started, and then it'll get done. And the... I need to take a sip of my tea, excuse me. I'm using my Snuggle Alert. If you live in, central, western Florida, Sunset Coast South, essentially, or even, maybe a little north, you will probably know the Snuggle Alert. It is from Dennis Phillips. So Dennis Phillips puts out a Snuggle Alert whenever we get weather that's colder than normal, and I think it's adorable. Dennis Phillips is my favorite weatherman on earth. He sells merch that 100% of all the money that comes in for that merch, he donates to a charity. So when he was selling the Snuggle Alert mugs, I got these for me and Dan for Valentine's Day, and that month the charity was Feeding Tampa Bay. So I love this mug. I think it's adorable. It's the perfect size for my 8-ounce green tea. So if you're wondering, Snuggle Alert, what? It's from my homeboy Dennis Phillips. Gets me through the hurricanes. Dan has wondered if he needs to be worried about how much I love Dennis Phillips. I don't know, guys. He may be. I love Dennis Phillips. Anyway, okay, we're gonna move on. So this one is both a travesty, but it's not getting frogged. So it's a travesty that will get done. It's a travesty because there's no fucking excuse. It's a Golden Haul shawl, guys. This is my design. So I cast this on with my test knitters because it was my first test and I was really nervous. I was really nervous that I effed it up and that I wouldn't be able to answer questions if I didn't have it on the needles. And I made some pattern edits that shouldn't have affected the pattern, and they didn't. They didn't affect how the pattern, they didn't affect the pattern in the knitting. So it was written correctly, it was edited correctly, but I was worried because there were some things that you can't catch unless you knit them. That's why testing is so important. And I'm gonna cry because a bunch of stitches just came off the needle. It's fine. This is really sticky wool. I will fix it. So we're just going to hold at this end. So this is my number 2 Golden Hall shawl. Those are all stitch markers that are falling off of this. Sorry, I just Tina Belchered on you. It's fine. I took this off the needles and frogged a good 2 inches previously. So I know that I can get it back on the needles. It's sticky wool. It is very rustic wool. That being said, I am going to take it out, though, and leave it out so it's not getting knocked around the bucket of WIPs. So the wool here that I'm using, this is Green Mountain Spinnery. So this is an example of my pattern being knit originally in Knit Picks, and I was knitting it out of Green Mountain Spinnery because I just want to smell it like this. I just love it. It's so sheepy. This yarn is fantastic. I love everything about Green Mountain Spinnery. They are top 5 favorites for sure. They are not cheap. I am not even going to pretend that they are, but this is their weekend wool and their chestnut colorway. And the reason it's not done is because I did a really dumb thing. My mom always told me when I was in high school, she would tell me when I would leave the house, stay in school, don't do drugs, don't do dumb things. Those were her 3 things. And so when I do a dumb thing, she'll sit there and go, well, you did a dumb thing. Like, I did, Mom. I did a dumb thing. I didn't check the dye lot. And she would say that out of love, guys. Like, to be clear, my mother was not running around calling me stupid. That was a joke between me and my mom. Don't do dumb things. I did a dumb thing. I didn't check the dye lot. So I was knitting away. I was like a couple of repeats away from going to the border cable. And I realized there was a really thick stripe of a completely different red. Two different dye lots. So I ripped out. I was just going to make this a couple inches smaller, which really on me was not a problem. My Golden Hall shawl goes pretty much to my knees. So I thought making it a little shorter will make it a little more wearable around the house for me. And I thought that's totally fine. But that does mean I'll have to alternate skeins in a cable. I've never done that before, but I'm going to figure it out because this needs to get done. It either needs to get done or I need to know for sure that alternating skeins in a cable is a nightmare, and I'm not going to do that. Because in that case, I can frog it and use this yarn for a different design. Because I love it so much, guys, and I do have an idea. So, yeah, but if I can finish it, I will, because I really want a second Golden Hall shawl, and I love everything about this. So, yeah, I think that's it. There may or may not be a couple other dormant knits that are so dormant. We're talking like Balrog. Like, I would have to delve even more greedily. The depths that I would have to hit, guys, the nameless things that I would have to fight in order to get to some of these WIPs. Like, I think there's one in there that is just a straight up seed stitch scarf that's made out of yarn that looks like popcorn. I think it was like the 3rd thing I've ever knit. I didn't finish it. I don't know, guys. I think it's there as like a talisman. I don't think it's ever going to get frogged. I don't think it's ever going to get knit. I am comfortable leaving it in that drawer over there that you can't see. So that's one of them. There might be others. I don't know. Sometimes I leave knitting things strategically around my house. I'm like a little knitting magpie. You just find just random little hordes. I don't know why. I don't know what my problem is. I don't know why I'm such a field mouse sometimes, but here we all are. And yeah. So I have my work cut out for me. Some of this is actual work, my actual designs. Some of it's pleasure knitting, and that's why I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to get this all done by. Pleasure knitting is supposed to be just that, a pleasure. If I say I will get it done, I will. I'm not going to tell you when, because sometimes that can be flaky. And I did just call myself a magpie, so let's be honest. Oh, my sunflower granny squares did not make an appearance. And they're all the way over there. I'm not going to pick them up, but I will pop in a picture. Again, that's another comfort one. It will get done when it gets done. I'm probably going to make it into a bag, like just sew the granny squares into a bag. They make me incredibly happy. And even just having them sitting over there in their little stack brings me a ton of joy. So even if I don't make it into a bag and they just cold chill over there, or if I turn them into coasters, like, it's fantastic because it's non-super washable. Yeah. I don't know, guys. I just feel like I ran a marathon. Do you feel like you ran a marathon? Are you a monogamous knitter? Did I just stress some of you out for like an hour? If so, I apologize. I am clearly not a monogamous knitter. So tell me, are you a monogamous knitter? Are you a process knitter? Do you like having multiple WIPs? What motivates you to work on something? Is it the stitch? Is it a technique? Is it the inspiration? You know, for me, I have found that there's got to be inspiration behind it that isn't just the leaf. Like, if it's just, here's a leaf, here's a knit, it's leaf, it's a knit. For me, I'm like, okay, cool. Lovely. Absolutely go on with your bad self, but I need a little more. But that might just be my personal brand of crazy. What motivates you to work on something? That's what I would like to know. Tell me in the comments. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to share. We are right under an hour, so this is longer than usual. I don't think there is. I'm just plugging away at my designs. I know I've been a little quiet over on Instagram, if you follow me on Instagram. You know, just I'm plugging away. I'm working over here while also working through some life stuff. And that happens, right? It's all cyclical. It's just the nature of life. The only guarantee is change. So trying to get square with that and accept it, and accept that two things can be true. Like, there can be some shit going down, and I can still be incredibly lucky and incredibly grateful. And if you guys are even questioning what I'm grateful for, y'all are a big part of it. I think I talked about this in maybe my previous episode, you know, that when I was doing my year review of 2022, common thread was all of it. And that includes you guys. So thank you so much. I'm going to end there because I think that's a lovely note to end on. So thank you so much, truly, for spending your time with me, for coming and hanging out with me. For those of you who support me on Ko-fi, you have no idea how much that support means to me. Members of the thread, you're essentially my family now. Sorry, you've been made. If you were not looking for that, I don't know what to tell you. You've been made. You're officially, I consider you a good chunk of my close friends and family now. So, you know, if you're looking for that kind of community, you're looking for that kind of connection, go check out my Ko-fi. It's $2 a month to hop on the thread. You know, we just had our monthly sit and knit. It's just so, it fills my cup, guys. And I hope it does the same for you. So, on that note, you're watching this on Friday. If you're watching it the day it comes out, or the days around it, it should still be the weekend. I hope you have a really great weekend. I hope that you are working through your WIPs in a way that feels comfortable and authentic to you, whatever that may be. And tell me what you're working on. What are your WIPs? I want to know what motivates you to knit. What are you working on? Drop it in the comments. I, at the very least, read every single comment. I respond to most of them. So, have a great weekend. I will talk to you all next episode. I think about 2 weeks. If you're in-betweener, I'll see you next week. Bye. Putting these damn stitches back on the needle, and all I can hear in my head right now is the Benny Hill theme.